Shalom, shalom. Through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Hashem, Yahweh. I'm just going through something real quick. First and foremost, let me write this too, because I was saying this earlier. This says Lashawan. According to no rules, it actually should be pronounced Lashawana. Or you have to add Shawan Na, right? So you'll have Lashawan Na. So you have to pick one. Why do we say Lashawan and not Lashawana? If there's no rules and every character is Aba, Ga, Da, Ha, Wa, Za, Ha, La, Ma, Na, Sa, why are we saying Lashawan instead of Lashawana? I'm going to tell y'all why. The same reason you can't go get, that I know, 5 people that's going to go speak this fluently with each other. Now, I know brothers that I've done things with. I could go get the messages. We text and message each other and type it all the time, and that's cool. When we get into these pronunciations, rules, right, and ideas have to be established, right? It's just really that simple. Some type of rules then have to be established because you're using the rules then when you go to say Lashawan, right? Saying Lashawan in itself is based upon a rule. Now, if you haven't even done with basics in the Lashawan, you have no idea what's going on right here. You this is chicken scratch to you, right? Even if you do partake in certain things, you don't know what's going on right here. So what's happening is, if you know, this is a root. What is the root here? Natan or Nathan. Now that verbiage is what we're finna actually go over right now. So we have he will give, or in a sense, I will give, right? And you have that yod there, right? Explaining a future tense. So this yod is explaining the future tense, which is the prefix there. You understand? The same thing with the tha here, right? Going into you will give, but I want to show y'all some problems here we have, and people have to make some choices. So you have, let's just deal with the first one. You have Yanathan, or is it Yantan, right? Is it Yatan? Is it Yantan? That has to be dealt with, right? How is the community and the elders coming together to piece these things together? Because I'm telling you, after a while, everybody just got to get behind a certain person that's forwarding the information. Then if people don't want to come together and figure these things out, you have you will give, masculine. So how are we going to do that? Is that Than, ya? Than, ya? Or is it Tan, ya? Or is it Tanya? Or is it Tantane? What is that? How are you guys pronouncing this? How do you say you will give? Right? And I'm about to show y'all, we finna get to a part that's finna be very interesting. I want y'all to look at all of this. Because it's something up here is the exact same. We got the parts that out. And we get into it. Here we go again. Yan Tanan? Is it Yan Tanan or is it Yan Tanan? Or is it Yan Thana? Right? How are you saying he will give versus she will give? So for an example, let's look at some stuff. You will give, right? So let's do this. This is this right here, she will give. So she will give. That's what this says. Then we're going to have the same thing being expressed up here. You will, right? So, how do you say and parse out if you're speaking to somebody? You will give and she will give. If we can see you will give, it's spelled like this. Let's spell you will give. This is you will give right here. So let's get it. Because the prefix you, Natan, give, right? You will give. Now let's write she will give. Hold on. Look at that. She will give and you will give is literally the same thing. Now what? So are we saying ta? Are we saying tanatan to say what? You will give, and then when we get to she will give, is thanathan. So it's tanatan, or is it tan, tana, or is it thanan, tana? Hey, there's work to me that needs to be done. So for everybody that do participate in Lashawan Qadash, see me, I study both, and it's not a big deal to me. But I have to bring these things out as I'm studying, and I'm seeing certain things. You know what I mean? I go in spaces and speak stuff. I get on Clubhouse and I go through every one of these. But then the question is being held: how do we then differentiate? Like, I think when a guy even asked Ariella, how are you going to differentiate he love, we love? I have loved, you have loved. How do you know when it's cognitive? You know what I mean? All of these rules and ideas have to be explained. You know what I mean? These things have to be dealt with through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. All right, hold on. Give me a second. I'm going to share this. Just what I'm saying. Let me share this video real quick. But those are the problems you're going to have when you try to say there isn't rules with the Lashawan Qadash. Because again, if there wasn't rules, people should be saying Lashawana instead of saying plainly Lashawan, based upon people claiming there isn't any rules. It's really that simple. And we see stuff like that kind of like all over in a sense, but not in every instance. So the problem, again, I'm saying that we will see is she will give and you will give. Somebody has to come in here and tell us this is going to be tantana and thantana. So so when you're hearing somebody talking in the Lashawan Qadash, and somebody says you will give, that's going to have to be off you hearing tantana. The problem with this is, if you believe that the people over in Israel speaking Yiddish, they use this character as the ta sound. So now you're going to have to pick and choose on what type of, the verbiage of it. Which, how we know there is there has to be some type of verb stem in the language. And we only know these type of things by brothers progressing and forwarding in the actual language, man. You know what I mean? That's how we can clearly know and see what's going on through the spirit and power. So we got to be able to break these things down. You know what I mean? Understand what's happening. How am I going to say this? And things need to be and I know how to say it, but this is just a question for people. How are you guys saying these things? What is that saying? So obviously we're at the give here, right? If y'all just paid attention to this, we've established the root. The root is to give, right? Why are you dropping certain things? So there's a prefix here. The prefix here would be what? The na, right? Which will be going into a nachnawa, or for some people, a nachnu. All right. Then you have the what? So that's the prefix. Then let's go to the root, which is the give, right? And let's make this thing plural in the sense of a we. So what would you do? Nawa. Natan, nath, nawa. Natan, na, nawa, or would it be natha, natha, na, nawa, or would it be nath, na, nawa, or would it be natan, or would it be not, na, nawa, not, na, nawa? Like, you know what I mean? These type of so 10 people of the Lashawan Qadash community, including myself, I help you guys, needs to get together and figure out the basics on how things are being forwarded. You have to go from first grade level all the way up to 12th. And I got the materials. You know, I do this. I really do this. So I got the materials. I go through it, and brothers and sisters need to come together to figure out how are these things being shown and communicated to the people. Right? That has to happen. Right? People, how do you say you all gave? Right? How do you say you all gave? Masculine. See what I'm saying? Plural, right? So let's do you all gave real quick. Plural, because we are dealing with plurals, right? So we know how to make something plural. We're going to do with you all gave. So we're going to do, right? You got to be able to understand where's the prefix at in this, right? You know about the pronomials. You know that the ka there is a what? That's dealing with you. You have the ma there that's making that plural, right? You have that root there, which is going into that giving and gave, representing what? That prefix, we, right? And what is this going into? Because this isn't a future, right? This is more so of a past tense nature. You ain't even dealing with future tense at this point, just to let you know. And those things are very vital, because how do you then point out and understand if you are dealing with future tense and you're dealing with past tense? How do we know that? What information do we have to substantiate that? So those basics have to be looked at, period, point blank. So when you're going through the text, you can parse out and understand what it is that you're seeing and reading through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh. Understand that, because it might be something that's imperfect going on. Or like I said, cognitive, which is showing who's doing the giving, who isn't doing the giving, right? So, for an example. Like, just in understanding, even like when you're dealing with Genesis 1. Barashat bara Elohim ath hamayim, right? Hashemayim wa'ath ha'aratz. Where's the preposition here? These are 100% basics. Where's the preposition? Right? Can we point out the preposition here, the joint preposition, the prefix? These things are important. So when you got somebody that's going into this, they're not even understanding that there's a prefix here, right? In beginning, right? There's things up here making up these words, and we have to be able to understand what's happening and why. For an example, when you deal with line 2, Waha Aratz, right? And the, right? Earth. Now, I would like to, so this is a good one, dealing with the was and going out to that became and things of that nature. Understanding what is that foundation denoting here? Is it became? Is it and it was? How do we break that down? What is the became here? Why is the thought here? Is to be, when you put in dealing with to be, do you put it, what does that have to do with the thought? You see what I'm saying? So we have to be able to understand why and what is being used in the text. That's all I'm saying. We got to be able to break that down. We got to be able to go to the text and be like, okay, I understand that. Because when we're able to do that, we're easily able to point out the root and understand what's actually being conveyed in the text. This is why people are using the rules, you know, and understanding that rule sequence. Because the rule sequence, essentially, I would say, in a sense, is important, right? Because with that, you understand third person, second person. What tense is it actually going to be in? What tense is that? You know, I think those things are important for just, you know, progressing in the language, understanding these things, and not ignoring what we have in the text. Because I'm going to tell you, if we can't differentiate from he will give and she will give, and understand why that stuff is being written, then we're doing that stuff. We might as well stop trying to learn Hebrew. You might as well put the Hebrew down. You understand? Stop trying to pick it up. Stop trying to learn it. You know, there's no point at this point. Yeah, so there's no point if we're not going to do ourselves justice through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai, man. So exactly. So within that, right? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai. So you got Ba Rashayat. So I say Ba Rashat or Shayath. You know, sheet is what people would say. But you got Barashayav, Bara'ah, Alahayim, Ath Hashemayim, Wa'ath, right? Ha'arats, right? Then you got Waha'arats, Hayatha, right? What is the tha there for? Yatha. What is that? Right? Why is a tha there? Because the root, anybody, because do anybody know what the root is here? Right? The root here would be haya, but you have a tha there. This right here, why is this added? Right? We have to be able to understand that and ask these questions. You know what I mean? We got to be able to understand and be able to parse these things out. So I'm just saying this. When we know that haya means to be or was, and we see a tha there, we have to be able to differentiate. We have to be able to differentiate why is that there? You see? We got to be able to go in Genesis 1 and say, okay, because that's closing this out and making this more of a perfect tense. Is that what's happening? Con, we got to be able to figure that out. That's what I would say. And that's why I'm saying, just as I'm studying, we getting into all the principles that's making up the language regarding rules syntax is very, very, very important. So I'm going to keep going through this stuff, and I'm going to keep showing y'all things, too, on why these things have what they have through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai. so we can progressively get through these things as a nation. I ain't coming on here saying to be professed like I know everything, I'm better than everybody or something like that. Oh, no. I'm just trying to go through these things and be like, show like, well, I think these things are very important, because when you deal with Genesis 1 and 2, you're dealing with grammatical reasons and the importance of understanding the Hebrew tense and the aspect. Again, what is the root, right? If you deal with hayathaya or hatha, what's that root there? Now I told y'all the root would be to exist, which is the ha, the yod, and the ha, right? But what the tha would be doing, Shalakia, what the tha would be doing is helping this make a perfect third person feminine singular, in a sense, right? So we got to look at these things and understand that, especially, and then why the feminine, right? Well, look, let me see, where we at? Oh, right, context. Look, so ha'aratz bara'a alahayim ath hashemayim. You know what's so crazy? The earth is regarded to as a she, as a her. You know what I mean? That's how the earth is actually looked at through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua when you're dealing with the heavens as well. It kind of carries that denotation there through the spirit and power. And some things are singular. Like, for an example, when you look at, let's see, Arats, when you look at earth, you have Ha-Arats, which is a feminine singular, right? So that's why when you deal with the context and the Hebraic thought here, when you deal with, which is to be, and you see that tha there, right? It's not, that's why it isn't masculine, because the surrounding context matter here is dealing with feminine, which is why you're dealing with the earth and how you deal with the earth. And what do people say? Mother Earth. Does that make sense to y'all? Hope that makes sense. Does that make sense? And that thought there is completing also the state of that. For an example, just to let y'all know, it's completing that state. This also close out for completion in that sense of understanding as well. In like a transitioning form, in a sense. So when you're doing Hayah, it wasn't a masculine form because the surrounding context was dealing with the feminine form in the close-up. So that's why it was shown differently, in a sense, right? Because you might see it a little different in different areas, right? So it's not always the same. So it's just understanding that. And I say those foundations right there is important when learning Hebrew too, right? Then, you going into morphology. Let me see. Thahal, Wabahal. You got formless and void. Wachashak al, Peni, darkness upon. Thahawam, which is hovered. Warach, Warawach, which is in the spirit. Alahayim. Marapach, hovered. Al upon Peni, the face. Hamayim, right? We know we're dealing with the waters. All right. Waya Amar. What's the root here in Waya Amar? This is the third sentence, right? What would be the root in Waya Amar? What's the root? Anybody know? If you know, put it down. Give you a chance to put it down in there. Why not just Amar? Why not just Amar? Why is it Waya Amar? Through the spirit and power, y'all about Shem, y'all Shah. What does Amar mean? What does Amar mean? I'm gonna tell you. Amar means said or to speak. Why not just he said? Because that's essentially what Waya Amar is going into, right? He said, spoke, describing the states, right? And it's kind of like, if you want to be technical, a imperfect sense, but it's going into he says, right, or he will say. You understand? So you're dealing with the Waya Amar, but you got circling sequences here that's going on. What do you have first? You have the Wa. Some people call it a Vav or whatever, right? That sequence is a continuation in a sense because it's telling you and. So and what? And going into what? Something is happening. So that's showing you the sequence of a continuation. And then you have the yod there. That's an imperfect action, which is going into a movement because we know the yod literally means to move. And that's also a sign of life, which goes to the word chaya, right? So that yod there's is showing you life. So this is all showing you a continuation, right? Waya, which is showing you the action. You need to know what action is being. That's why I said, how do you know when something is cognitive and not, right? So you got Waya, Waya, right? Amar. What does Amar mean? To declare, to speak, right? And he declared, basically, going into, and he spoke, right? This is happening by speech, not struggle. You understand that? So the Waya Amar it's being styled in that language to show a decree, a commandment or something, right? In a sense, like a binding understanding of the narrative, right? Because there's a narrative being spoken here. Now, how do we know that? In a sense, because it's saying, and he said something is being, actionhood is being spoke about here in a different tense as well, right? Because if it was to say I said, the tense there would be different, dealing with first, second, and third person, if that makes sense, right? Does that make sense? All right. So where we at? Yeah. Waya Amar Alahayim Haya, right? Uh-oh. Look at that. Why isn't this feminine? Why? Because the context surrounding this man has nothing to do with a feminine form at all. Look, Waya Amar Alahayim. Right? You see that? What is, do y'all notice something there? Because I noticed something. I want to see if y'all notice. What y'all notice? We at the third verse, right? Do y'all see something that we've already seen? B, to be, right? Look at what we got here. You see that? To be. Notice that's kind of different from right here, though. You see that? This is going into the same root. But when we get right here, it's a little different. You got ha, ya, tha, ha. Then you got the ya. Ya, ha, ya. What's the difference? That's the question now. What is the difference? That's what I want to know. I want to know what the difference is and why would that be that? Why is this different from this difference? The same root is to be. Right? That's what I want to know. Why is it like that? What exactly is happening there? Right? It comes into being. Is it happening? Right? Is it future tense? Is this already in existence as a reality? Right? What does haya, right? What verbs is that contain? Is this dealing with a condition? Right? What's actually happening here through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh? Right? And I'm gonna tell you, man, this is why these rules are important. You understand? This is why we have to be able to go through these things with the elders, and the conversations need to be had so we can parse this stuff out, so we can all come to these conclusions together and grow together, make the studies a little bit more fun. You understand? We got to be able to understand that. Why is this different? You know what I mean? I already showed y'all and proved to y'all that to be why this thought was here is because the surrounding context here is dealing with feminine. The earth is dealing with feminine. So this is going to be constructed as feminine when dealing with to be, and it was. But it's not the same root. It's a different root. So when you deal with the root here, no, it's the same root, but different. It's differently how it's expounded upon, right? And the earth was, right? You have the hey or the ha, yao or the yod. You have the tha or the ta, and then you have the ha. And then as soon as you get down here to verse 3, was that verse 3 or 4? So 4, 1, 2, 3. Wayamar Elohim Yahai. Yeah, exactly. Why is this different from here? If we can't explain why these things are different, we need to get another teacher. You can't just go through that in the language and bypass that like it's not like something isn't different, like there isn't a different function happening here. It's the same root, but a completely different function happening, right? You got verbal roots, means to become, to come into being, to happen, right? This is a concept within the sentence. And also, right here is a conjunction, a conjoined form, which is showing you a third person feminine singular. That's what's happening. Listen, if somebody don't know that this is a third person feminine singular, right? And the only reason it's feminine because the surrounding context matter here is dealing with the earth, and the earth is a feminine form and energy. And for no other reason, this is happening here, and this is a third person concept, then you're not learning real Hebrew, man. I'm telling you right now. You know what I mean? I appreciate the elders. I appreciate what they done. And they only took this thing so far, but we got to progress this. Yep. And I'm telling you right now, I'm calling all brothers that deal with the Lashawan, say deal with the Lashawan, brothers need to get together and take this as just as serious. Because I'm learning both styles, man. And if I know I'm going through this text and I'm parsing it out based upon what, honestly, people on the earth have given us, you know what I mean? If you ever parse this out in that handwork, I can't go and lie and say that it ain't no rules. Again, y'all, we say Lashawan and Lashawana based upon rules. And it's probably unspoken rules that the elders ain't talked about. I'm telling y'all right now, there are rules. Because we should be saying by default, Lashawana and Qadasha. And Yahweh Shaya or something like that. You know what I mean? But the reason we say Lashawan, hold on, I wrote that down. The reason we say Lashawan and not Lashawana because we using unspoken rules. And that's what I'm saying. We all got to come to the table and talk about these things and start forward with the right information, man. Because it's getting crazy at this point as I'm looking at this stuff. Like I told y'all earlier, I'm about to show you. Hold on, where did that paper go that I just had? I'll be writing all this stuff down. Hold on. I want to show y'all something. Where was I at earlier on this? He will give, she will give. Yeah. Let me get something real quick. Yeah, cons, right? So look, Told you the problems, some of the problems we gonna come into if we don't get this down. So you got she will give, right? And you got you will give. You either got time to nah, then you will give time to nah, or you gonna have to say than to nah, time to nah. So this is how in the dialect we differentiate when we communicating with each other with the Lashawan Qadash, considering these are literally spelled the same exact way. The pronunciation has to be different by default or throw the Lashawan Qadash away. This is where niggas get confounded right here. Basics. And this is first grade. These are first grade sequences right here. I will give, she will give, we will give. This is what you go through when you in school and you're a little boy and kid, you developing on how to talk to somebody and go out there and make some sense to people. Right? So I'm just saying, if the information just isn't if we're not being honest about the information, we gonna look like some damn fools. You know what I mean? I got on Clubhouse yesterday and spoke to Yoshi, and we went through all this, and I broke everyone down. As soon as we got here, I got confounded. So I got confounded as soon as I got the she will give and you will give. In the sense of, I know for a fact I ain't had these conversations with brothers in the community speaking to Lashawan, and I ain't seen one dude, I haven't seen nobody get this far. I ain't seen nobody, hold on, let me show you guys. When I say this far, I'm playing around. Playing. Nobody's playing. Okay? Nobody's playing games. Right? So, we doing the work, right? We doing all the work. We going in chapters. We busting these things down, right? We understanding. We go bust down the whole entire chapter page of Joshua, break that down, look at the tense that is written there, right? We doing that with everything. So we doing that with plurals. He gave, you all gave. We this is the type of work that needs to be done to understand exactly what it is that you're getting into. Like for an example, I think he was dealing with past tense. I love the Father in past, present, and future tense, showing the Paleo Hebrew form. Past tense, I love the Father, right? Ahab Thaya Aft Ahab. I love the Father. What does that look like? How do we know it's in third tense? What's the suffix talking about? Right? In past tense, I. How do you know when I is being popped up? Right? Thaya, what does that mean? Me or I, because that's a pronomial. We have to know to understand what's happening in the text. This type of work has to be done, man. Period, point blank. Direct object marker. Y'all see that alone. Oth, going into dove, referring to the main object marker of the entire sentence. Right? Present tense. Love, I love the Father. Break down present tense. Ahab, oth, ahab. Right? Which would be different than the past tense that we read, which is ahab, thaya, oth, ahab. See that? But knowing how to break that down. Right? Going into the future tense, right? I will love the Father, right? What does that look like, right? So that's all I'm saying, going into that future tense. And that's ahab, ahab, right? Because you got certain things and prefixes that's making the future tense on he will, I will, she will, and that'll just be a few words, like you had this. This alone is I will, right? Right? Let's do we will. We will. That's we will right there. Now I wanted to say we give, right? So that'll be, obviously you'll have that, right? We got to be able to know how to do these things. And like I said, breakdowns after breakdowns, understanding how to do these things. We will be understanding what these things are when we seeing these things at the end of a word. Understanding the feminine, the subject matter there, in the perfectly formed, the masculine. She will be good, fully feminine. What in the passage is agreeing with the other. You know what I mean? I wrote these down. That's why I wrote this down right here. Remember, I said them alone just means what? I will give, he will give, you will, she will, because that's what that thigh is going into, right? We will give, right? So some will say anachnu. We Nach Nu. You could say Nu or Nawa, Anach Nawa, right? Will give. Or, yeah, we will. Right? Let's do we will. Hiya. That's we will give. Not hiya. Right? What else we got, man? I got a whole bunch. I got all types of stuff up here, man. Will be, future tense, past tense. I will be, you will be. How do you say that? And these are basic. How would somebody go and say, I will be, you will be, he will be? Yeah, I definitely will do a video on that for sure through the spirit and power. Definitely. So yeah, you got the I will be, you will be forms. These things are very important. You know what I mean? Just going through these, showing these things, man. Like, we got to be able to, this is the type of work that has to be done, man. Listen, I wish I could just go into it and say, Abba, God, Da, Ha, Wa, Za, La, Ma, Na, Sa all day. You know what I mean? Not use and understand what's going on. Like, when I first studied, I'm about to show y'all what I did when I first studied and how I was 100% not on point at first. What does your thigh mean? You know, and it just goes on. You know what I mean? These are all the basics y'all need. Y'all need these basics, right? Masculine, feminine. Some people know these basics and know them, but they don't know how to actually use them. You know what I mean? How do you use these? A lot of people ain't been used to the syntax structures, right? Future prefixes. How do you use these? And if we're going to use these, and this is the foundation y'all going to come upon and use, because you have to learn verb systems and basics. You have to learn this stuff that can progress in the brew. How is it now that we're going to reject the system? Yeah, like I said, I'm saying that we come up with our system using the Lashawan Qadash, but I'm saying is we can't act like that every word is sounding the same, man. Like, it has to get to a point to where things have to be expounded upon and talked about through the spirit and power of Hashem Yahushua, right? Like, for an example, right? He wrote, right? What does this say, right? He walked with his people. Yeah, he walked with his people. Hawa halak aimwa, right? This is people, this is his, this is halak. You know, real easy. So verb pattern system, past, right? Kathab. Kathab literally means to write, or he wrote, right? Ya kathab. What does ya kathab mean? He will write. How do we know that's he will write? Well, look at this. He. So this is a future tense prefix. He. So if you put ya kathab, so look, if I put kathab, kathab, or katab, if I put kathab, right? So look, here is all the prefixes. So you have so right here, this is he, this is she, this is you, this is I, this is we. So if I put kathab, which is to write, kathab, right? So that's wrote, or he wrote. Say, I wanted to say he will write. How do I make that? How do I now write he will write? Simply, you add the future prefix. That means that he will write. Now, if I wanted to... So you could say he wrote that, which is katab za, or you could say he wrote that. I mean, it's like he will write that. Depending on the conversation, he will write that. So that's ya katab za. You understand? These are things that need to be expounded upon and taught. Right? I'm just saying. What if you got I will write that, right? So let's do that. Katab. Let's do the I though, right? Akatabza. Or how do we know this isn't akatab? How do we know it's not akatab? See what I'm saying? At what point is this not pronounced t, but a tha, or the other way? Not a tha, but a t here. It has to be dealt with. I'm just saying, people need to come together. Leadership need to come together and deal with that. So you can understand the difference between he wrote, she wrote. He is writing. You understand that? How do you write he is writing? You see what I'm saying? So these are things that has to be dealt with through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, man. Oh, I wrote something else here. Example, he will reign, right? She will reign, right? Sentence structures, sentence and formats, nouns and pronouns. So we know what does the word reign mean? I'm going to the word reign. Let's do it. Malak. King, to reign. How do I write he will reign? Well, remember, the future tense for he would be what? The yod. He will reign. Yamalak. Right? She will reign. Let's write that. Malak. Root. Prefix. What's the prefix for she? See that? Tamalak. Or is it Tamalak? See what I'm saying? We have to be able to break these things down through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, man. And understand even when two thoughts are being joined, right? Through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. What is this saying right here? I have no idea. What's this? The people, Torah, the people, Torah, Rawach, spirit, prophet, Malak, king, Bayath, house, people. Right? He the prophet, and Malak, and right, and the king, and people, Torah, spirit, prophet, Malak, house, people. I don't know what I was writing now. I guess I was just writing things, joining things together. Prefixes. Same stuff, you know. Oh, yeah, right. I wrote that in here again. Past, Kathab, he wrote, he will write. Even dealt with the teaching, right? With the intensive. Lamad, Malamad, Lamad. In Hebrew, verbs already carry the subject inside them. For example, Lamad. Lamad goes into he learned. You understand? He is not written separately because Hebrew tense, right? Dealing with the tha, right? Person is built into the verb. So if you see ma in words, it's usually part of the root. It's usually part of the root part of the verb pattern or a prefix meaning from, not a pronoun. Example, using ma lamad. It marks it as a participle causative from one who teaches. You understand that? So the one who's teaching, because remember, ma means from, right? Lamad means teach. So it's one who, this is now going into one who's teaching. And if we don't have these basics, and we're not writing things down so we can have a good understanding, we're not going to be able to comprehend what's actually happening. So I even wrote these down. Interrogative questions. Who? Right? You got who, what, when, why, where, when. That's what that looks like. Right? And understanding how to put these things in sentence forms. Right? What's this? I'm not with the people. Anya la'am ha'am. Demonstrations here, right? This, which is za, that, ha, these, Allah, those, hamah. You know, interpretive commands, walk. I mean, so like, so you got halak, you got come, ba'ah, become, hawa, right? You know, this just goes on for days, man. I got so much stuff. House of my father. You know, I'm dealing with the adverbs, right? Ma'ad, kabar, damyad, hamayam, hawayam, salakia. Now, then you got the pronomials. These pronomials are good to get a great understanding of what's going on. You know, so everything at the end of a pronomial is what? To the what? Left side. So you have what? My, your, his, her, our, their. Then what do you have? This is people, Abba, people, my people, your people, his father, her father, our people, their people, right? Understanding how to do these things. All of these things are 100% basics we have to go through. Get with me, y'all. Hit me up. Let's go through them together. Let's get it. Right? Passive constructions, right? We got to learn how to do that. My house of the king, right? What are these? What do these things look like? What's the root in house? It's bat, right? Not the yod, right? You know, dealing with the tenses. In, right? So you got ba, la, ma, I'm, ka. Right? That's in, to, for, with, like. Joint prefixes. No, we got the works here, man, through the spirit and power of Yahweh, man. But like, I'm gonna get back with y'all on some stuff. Just, you know, really going through these things through the spirit and power of Yahweh, doing more formal breakdowns. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just read Genesis 1 and Lashawan Qadash. And if I see anything, I guess I want to highlight and break down, I will. And I will forward more videos, I guess, dealing with some basics, all the basics that I can go through and go with. And if people, like I said, want to get down with me and learn some stuff, feel free. But that, shalom.